The primary piece of equipment for generating electricity from the sun is the PV module, more commonly referred to as a solar panel. These are actually formed from a number of photovoltaic cells, often shortened to photocells or PV cells. A PV cell is, in very basic terms, a large diode, a one-way device for electric current. They consist of two different layers of chemically altered or doped semiconductors to form an anode and a cathode, separated by a junction, which is a very thin insulating material which has two electrically charged surfaces, positive on the cathode side and negative on the anode side. The junction only allows electrons to flow in one direction. When an electron, which is negatively charged, approaches the junction from the anode side, it first encounters the negatively charged surface and is repelled. But when the electron approaches from the cathode side, it first encounters the positively charged surface and is attracted. If it has enough energy when it approaches the junction from the cathode side, the electron can cross the junction to reach the anode layer. Thus, electrons can move relatively easily from the photocell's cathode layer to its anode layer, but they can't go back. When a PV cell is exposed to particles of light, known as photons, some of the photons are absorbed in the diode's cathode layer. Some of the energy absorbed will be transferred to electrons in the cathode, giving the electrons the energy required to cross the junction and reach the anode. But once the electrons have arrived at the anode, they can't return to the cathode directly across the junction. Instead, they must flow through an external circuit in order to return to the cathode. As the electrons flow through the external circuit, they can give up some of their energy obtained from the light photons to devices in that circuit. The construction materials of a PV cell determine how effective it is in different light conditions, and also how expensive they are to produce. The most common form of PV cells are manufactured from silicon and are either classified as a form of crystalline, thin film, or a combination of these two technologies.